Hi, and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry in here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, I'm going to share with you my decision on my dream sweater, the Pina Colada, a pattern by Zukaite. I wasn't sure what to do with the sleeves, and you guys helped me so much, so thank you if you ended up commenting on that last video. I also am going to share with you my finished Audria shawl, a pattern by isangknits or Inese sang, as well as a little progress on my Aureliano sweater. I am so excited to review the latest issue of Laine Magazine, issue 22. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm wearing. Girl, what? I'm not wearing any knitwear today. I will be in a minute, but I wanted to share with you, I've had this t-shirt for a little while. I purchased it from Knitting is Metal, and I just thought it was really fun. It's a like tarot card with a little skeleton knitting. And since we're heading into the Halloween season, if you will, I thought maybe you might enjoy this. So check it out. Okay, so let's talk knitting. I have so much to show you. I'm very excited. First, let's talk about my Audria shawl. I finished it, you guys, and it's so pretty. I'm gonna do this one first only because it is extra fuzzy, and I'm okay with getting this t-shirt fuzzy, but I don't want to get the next thing I have to show you fuzzy, so we'll start with this one. The Audria shawl is a pattern by isangknits, and she had a stockinette, colorwork, and lace shawl with beautiful scalloped edge. And I really love how this turned out. The second that I saw her teasing the pattern, I knew I wanted to knit it. The thing that really caught me the most was that the scalloped edge kind of mimicked the colorwork. That's what really drew me in to this shawl. Now, it is on, for me, a little bit on the large side to do it like this, but absolutely it can be done. And I'm looking off to the side so I can see if it looks straight or not. But this is a beautiful way to wear the shawl. You can also wear it more, ugh, I'm choking myself, sorry. Shawl-like, if you will. And I really think this turned out beautifully. The contents of the fiber, the fingering weights are all yak based. And so I used the yak singles from Qing fiber in the colorway Moody for the main color. And then I held that with Knitting for Olive in the colorway Powder. And then I used Lola Bean yarn, Name Me, in this dark red. And that was held with Yarn Nouveau's Black Coral mohair. And I just really, really like how this turned out. The drape on this is really amazing. The way that it's knit up is really fun because you are kind of switching it up enough to where it makes it really fun. Once you get to this section, you're kind of trying color work, perhaps for the first time. Not for me, but this may be a good pattern for you because you do knit color work front and back, so you are having to purl the color work, and I found this to be quite simple, and so I think would be a good option. The floats aren't too long. There's a couple places where I would recommend catching floats, but I think it turned out really nicely. The lace pattern was really simple, and one thing to kind of note on this pattern is she does have you switch up your needles depending on the section. I think for the stockinette, you're using a smaller needle than you are in the lace and color work, I believe. But I really love how this turned out. Again, the drape is amazing. I feel like this was an excellent choice for this. I really think that the soft fuzziness of the yak and the mohair are amazing together. I will say, both with the Lola Bean and the Yarn Nouveau bases, being a red, they did not, what do you call it, bleed at all. Like the water was completely clear. So that really speaks to those dyers' like amazing capabilities. And yeah, I really love it. I'm really excited to wear it. I think that the scalloping was really fun to do. I hadn't done a scalloped edge on anything before. I really thought that I didn't read the pattern all the way through. So when I think I spoke last time, I kind of thought you would do a scallop and then bind it off and then do the next scallop and bind it off. That's not the case. You actually do your scallops and then you come back and bind everything off, which was fine. It was actually a good reason for it, to make sure that your petal shapes are perfect. And I think it turned out beautifully, and it didn't really take as long as I thought it was going to take. You end up with a lot of stitches on your needle at the very end, but it's worth it. It's completely worth it. I would 100% knit this again, probably not right away, only because it was a teeny tiny needle. Most of the time, I think I was knitting on a US 3 or a 2.5, like very small needles, and it did go by quickly just because it was stockinette, but again, it did take a while. So I'm really proud of this. I think it turned out beautifully. Inese made such a beautiful pattern, and I really love it. So I can't recommend this enough. I think this would be really beautifully, and I think I've mentioned it before, I think it would be gorgeous in a very low contrast. Not like low to where you can't decipher the colors, but I think like an ice gray and a white would be really pretty, for example, or a kind of, I want to say charcoal gray, but you would have to be careful on the speckling, and a black would be pretty. But I would almost do a more like a medium gray and a black if you wanted to go really dark. But I think, yeah, if I were to knit it again, maybe I would go a little less contrast just for a little different look. But I really like the way this turned out. And just for fun, because I thought I keep picking up this color palette a lot. I'm really liking blush and maroon and blacks a lot lately. So I thought I would share. I have a lot of a lot of my shawls have this coloring in it. This is a Pearl Soho triangle. What is it called? Can't think of the name of it right now. I'll put it below. But it's the triangle, half and half triangle wrap by Pearl Soho, and using their linen quill, and this is Kettle and Graphite. And then I have this right here, which is, this shawl is the Feel Good Shawl by Andrea Mallory, and it's using all Yarn Nouveau bases. I cannot remember all the colors, but I will link it below and name them so you can see them there. But I'm really liking like these combinations. So I thought I would just kind of share that with you, because I think sometimes when you get into a little bit of a groove with color, it can make things a lot easier, because I know like these colors look really nicely together and these colors work really nicely together, and you know, I like to do grays and blacks a lot of times, and so just having that in the back of my mind when I'm maybe purchasing yarn or wanting to like come up with something quickly, I know that those are like my go-tos. And you can get a lot of stuff in your closet then that's all the same color, but then it all kind of works together. I have a sweater that's this color, kind of like a blushy pink, and I have one that's a maroon, and so a lot of like my knits will kind of work and complement this, and I can wear them together. So I think that's really nice. What else can I say about this? The Audria shawl itself is nice and lightweight because you are using a fingering and a mohair. It doesn't, I mean, I guess it kind of is a DK weight, but it's still, I feel like it's still rather light. Like this is brioche, DK weight brioche shawl, and it's quite heavy in a good way. Like it's definitely has more of a blankety feel, where this one is a lot more light and airy and has a lot more drape than that one. So maybe keep that in mind when you're going to pick a shawl, kind of how you want it to feel. A DK shawl is going to feel a little bit heavier, and depending on the stitch pattern, it's going to kind of depend. So since this is knit quite, I would say it's a little dense in a good way. For the stockinette pieces. So at first I thought, oh, maybe this will be a little bit on the heavier side, but it really wasn't. So yeah. But this is my Audria shawl by Inese. I love it. and I really am excited for the weather to turn so that we can wear it. Today's not one of those days, but again, I'll put it on one more time for you. So pretty. I really like it. It's a very good size, I think, and with it being kind of on the lighter weight, to me at least, you can kind of wrap it up in a few different ways and it doesn't feel like too bulky. Like this would easily, I think, go under a coat, where I might have a little bit more trouble with this one, but I don't think I would wear it in the same way. I think I would wear it a little bit differently in general. So yeah, I had to share it with you guys. Look at these scallops, they're so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So that is my Audria shawl by Inese, isangknits. Ta-da! Beautiful. Okay, so for the next one, I'm gonna do a quick little outfit change, and I think we'll stick with it for the rest of the podcast. So, ta-da! You guys, thank you so much, first of all, for anyone who commented on my last video about this sweater. This is the Pina Colada sweater by Zukaite. I did end up just finishing out the sleeves with a little ribbing, and I love how that turned out. I think it looks like it was supposed to be this way, and no one's gonna know. No one's gonna know. Who's gonna tell them? You guys gonna tell them? I'm not gonna tell them. So this is an all over intarsia sweater. It is knit with Alpaca 1 from Isager and Alpaca 1 in colorway black, and then yarn Nouveau in the colorway Sapphire. Okay, so colorway Sapphire. So these two colors are marled and then held single. So in the kind of lattice section, they're marled together, and then you drop it and then you knit across in just the Alpaca 1, and then you pick up another intarsia, and that's how it's kind of knit. So a couple of alterations that I did. I added a pattern repeat, so mine is a little bit longer than the sweater. I decided to make mine with quite a bit more positive ease, which is why I kind of started questioning how I wanted this to look overall, but I really like it. So basically, all of the factors that led into making this short sleeved. One, you guys really were behind me on the decision of making it short sleeved, which I appreciate. Because after I thought about it, I was like, uh-oh, if everybody wants long sleeves, I'm gonna feel bad if I'm like, just kidding, I'm gonna do short sleeves. But that actually made me feel like I was making a good choice. I also, once I did it, realized like it looks finished. I don't think it looks in any way like I didn't finish the sweater. I don't think, because I made it kind of so oversized, I don't think it looks like it's not supposed to be this way. Like hanging up, it looks like, yeah, that's how that sweater's supposed to be. So I'm so happy how it turned out. I really, really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to give feedback and better ideas. Some people had suggested, like, don't worry about doing a whole sleeve in the intarsia. You can just do, like, just in the lace weight, just do a plain sleeve. And that was a great idea. The other couple of ideas were, again, doing the slimmer sleeve. I'm trying to think of what else was suggested. Some people suggested just doing it this way and then wearing it for a while and seeing how I feel. So yeah, there was a lot of different suggestions, and I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to write them out for me and kind of speak up and tell me what you were thinking. So I really appreciate it. I feel like this is a masterpiece. So there's a few knits that I've done where I finish and I'm like, look, this is the most amazing knit I've ever done, and it will, I'm sure, wear off. But I really feel that with this sweater, because I felt like it took all of my patience and determination and just a lot of patience, because I really, like, when I first watched this, I almost gave up because I felt like my intarsia was looking a little sloppy and I wasn't sure if I was doing it correctly, and it was a little loose and I wasn't really getting gauge and like all these different things. And in the end, it worked out. I will say if you're going to knit this, a couple of things to kind of notice, and I'm going to try to find an example somewhere on the sweater, maybe towards the beginning. So when you're first starting out knitting it, well, I'm going to try to use my hand. So when you're first starting out knitting it, these triangles, sometimes you'll have like almost like a hole. It looks like a bigger stitch. And if you focus on that, you were never going to finish the sweater. And I realized after a point, like, I'm just going to go for a while and see how it turns out and see if it at least looks uniform in the places where I'm feeling like it's not. And it did. Because this is alpaca, it's very flowy. It has a nice drape to the fabric. So alpaca 1 is just a lace weight alpaca from Isager. And then this is a sport weight merino yarn. And I'm really, really pleased with how everything went together. When I first saw this sweater in person, I really did not know that it was going to be so amazing from the pictures in the magazine. It was hard for me to tell from the pictures in the magazine that the diamonds were a different weight. So when I first saw this picture in the magazine, it was really hard for me to tell that the diamonds were a lace weight. I think because of the color that they knitted in and skin tone, I just couldn't tell as well that it was actually going to be like lace weight and sport. I can read that obviously, but it wasn't reading in the picture very well. So when I saw the sweater in person and realized that's what was going on with it, it made it way more exciting to me. And I really wanted to knit it. And I had one of those moments, I kept bothering Brit from Not Bad Brit, and she and I had lots of laughs over Flock 2023. And I kept coming and visiting the sweater because I kept like imagining all the amazing things about it. And when I could imagine it in my mind, which is always a really good sign, I saw that it was going to be black with blue, like a black and blue sweater. And I kind of got very hooked on that idea. I loved Yarn Nouveau's bases and colors, and I knew they would have a nice blue to do it in. And then I had to just think of the kind of lace weight yarn. When I researched the pattern a little bit further, they used Yarnia, I think it's called Yarnalia yarn, and it was a lace weight alpaca, not Surrey alpaca, but just a regular, I'm gonna try to show this, lace weight alpaca. Hopefully that's showing. And I really was like, okay, in my head, I instantly knew just my local yarn store had this yarn. And so I knew I could run over and grab it and get started. So when I got home and I like immediately tried to cast on, or not cast on, but do a swatch of the sweater, I started getting frustrated. One of the frustrations was with my needles, which I actually continued on. I didn't like stop and try to troubleshoot that at all. I just was like, okay, well, I'm having problems. So I was using my Addi Click, and when I was a brand new sweater maker, I decided to get Addi Clicks. I don't know why I got so hooked on this, but in my mind, I thought, okay, like having to put in the little metal thing for the ones that you have to twist on and then like tighten. I thought, oh, that's like such a extra step. I'm never gonna like, I'm gonna lose the little keys and all the different things. And so I was like, oh, the click will be perfect. You just click in the tip and go. Normally that is the case. I will say normally I actually do like using those needles a lot, but with the lace weight and the intarsia and the sport weight and having all these different things to kind of take into consideration, I was really struggling. So when I decided to like give up on the Addis and switch to a ChiaoGoo fixed needle, because I just needed a fixed one, everything's knit flat except for the neckline, but everything else is knit flat. And so I guess I also picked up and knit in around the arms, but having everything knit flat, it made it easier to do it on the fixed needle. I got a lot more knit and a lot less frustrated. So that was like a big game changer for me and something I highly recommend. I probably wouldn't even try to knit this with an interchangeable, which is not something I would normally say, but I just had so much of an easier time with a fix needle that's I think what I would recommend. And I used boy bobbins, which are just these little plastic bobbins. You can get them on Amazon. I actually thought I was gonna do like a whole thing with these, like try a bunch of different bobbins, and in the end I was like, these are just the ones that work for me, and so that's what I stuck with. And yeah, that's all I can kind of think of to add to any information that I've given in previous episodes, but I'm so pleased. I really, like, I'm so excited. I really can't tell you how excited I am, other than keep saying over and over that I'm so excited. But I love the pattern. I think the sleeves would have looked nice, and here is where I think I would have changed and done the sleeves. For those of you who are like, you should do the sleeves. I know, and I kind of agree with you, but I would have done the sleeves if this was slimmer. If I would have went down a size or two, then making the sleeves would have made sense to me. But it didn't make sense having this oversized and then having sleeves. I think it would have just been an overpowering sweater, and I felt like I had to, I felt like I had to kind of honor where I was at with the sweater in terms of excitement and also how it would look. Like, I am a completionist. I like to see things through to the end. Stop. No. I like to see things through to the end. And a lot of times I will power through something even if I'm actually doing something wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going because, you know, this is what I'm doing, even if I have those little voices. So this time I did listen to the little voice saying like, Laurel, I think it's done. I really think you've come to the end of this project and you need to wrap it up and actually wear it and enjoy that happy feeling. Had I like pushed myself through the sleeves and then put them on and realized everything looked too big, it would have been like heartbreaking, and I would have probably not liked the sweater at all for a while, which has happened to me when I've made a decision that I'm not super happy with. Then it takes me a long time to actually like fall back in love with the sweater. So follow your heart on that. If you're in a struggling mode, I would step back from a project and think, you know, how could I make this to where I'm happy with it and I can move on. So I'm happy with how this turned out. I wouldn't change this sweater at all. If I were to knit it again, sure, I would knit it maybe smaller and do sleeves just as something different, but I'm really happy. I'm happy how it turned out, and I feel like this is my epic sweater for the year. So I don't know, maybe we'll get more epic sweaters, I don't know, but I'm really, really so happy with this one. Next. So in Portland, which is where I'm filming from, our kids are all, well, not all back in school, but the public school children are in school, and my 4-year-old will start preschool next week. But before they do start school, I like to do this little thing, and maybe it'll be a tradition or maybe it'll be not a tradition, but last year I did it for my youngest as well, or my oldest as well. I make little hearts. Is this showing up? The pattern is Palpitation, and I can't remember the designer, but I will put it on something. It's really cute. So I knit this one with my hand spun, and each of my kids were like very funny because they were kind of annoyed with me that they didn't have the same one as the other kid. And part of the reason for that is they're 2 different kids, which is what I've been trying to tell them, but they'll learn one of these days. So I used my hand spun for this heart for my oldest. And the colorway is called Cannibaliss, and it's by Art and Alchemy, but she actually changed her name, so if I can figure it out, I will put that in the thing below. But I really like this color. I knit a traveler hat, a DRK traveler hat, Andrea Mallory's traveler hat, with it, and my husband claimed it, so it's his hat. But I had so much extra that I decided to make his little heart out of this one because green is his favorite color. It really looks, I think, so cute in it, and I fill it with a cotton alternative. It is an organic filling, and if I can think of it, I'll put it on the screen, but I really like it for little stuffies, and so far this accidentally got washed already and it came out just fine, washed and dried. I really thought it was gonna feel super bad, but it didn't. The second heart is random yarn. I don't actually know the yarn. There we go. Okay, so it is a gold yarn. Their crest was gold with sparkles. So we did a gold yarn that was from my stash, don't know what it was. And then we did a held with a sparkle, silver sparkle. So I really like how this one turned out. I think it's super fun. And it's really his personality. It's also a little bit scratchier. So my oldest has a very like textile, I think that's the word I'm trying to think of. Tactile, a tactile kid. And so if anything's scratchy or anything, he's not gonna like it. And he's very picky on wool sweaters. And so this one I thought was better for him because it's a lot softer. And then this one with all the sparkles, while he really wanted sparkles, they are kind of scratchier, and my youngest is just not affected by that in the same way. So I knew it was a little bit better choice for him, and that was his request. So I make these little hearts, and then I tell them that I've added a lot of mom's love in there. So if they get nervous during the day, it's in their pocket, they can squeeze it, and hopefully that will help. And so that's kind of what I do for their first day. So I just wanted to share that with you in case you guys are wanting something similar. It could be for grandkids who are traveling home, or a loved one in the hospital, or whatever. I think they're nice little tiny knits that you can quickly kind of knit up, and they're amazing. I also sometimes add a little hoop, and then they can be a little ornament if you want. So I really like them. There's free patterns that are hearts, and then there's paid ones, but I used the paid one. So that was my cute little hearts for my kids, and I'll have to give those back. They really didn't want to give them to me at all. But I was like, I promise I'll give them back to you as soon as the podcast is done. Okay, next up. Pre-orders are still open. Little note, I was gifted this pattern. So just so you know, I'm being transparent. I was gifted this pattern. The pre-order for the Memory Lane book by Claudia Quintanilla is coming out, or the pre-order is open now. The book comes out September 17th. And I am knitting the Aureliano sweater out of the book. It is an all-over colorwork sweater in double mohair. And I am using all Laine yarn. So I'm using Winterfell, Smoke, Fog, and Mist, I believe. No, I lied. I'm using Laine Winterfell, Fog, Direwolf, let me think, and Mist. I'll link it below. I can't remember. I think I'm screwing something up. I know that the middle, the lighter, the mid color of the gray is Direwolf. I believe the lightest one is Fog, and I think this one is, maybe this one is Smoke, but I thought Mist was in there too, so now I'm confused. That's okay. You guys, you know what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's turning out really pretty. I really like it. I split for sleeves. I haven't tried it on since I split for sleeves, but I did try it on just prior to, and it was really looking like it was gonna fit well. Some things to consider. So if you are want to plan for yarn for this project, one, they have kits if you just like how they picked out their yarn. But if you want to do your own, here's some tips on picking yarn, which is not necessarily, I didn't necessarily follow these tips, but I will kind of tell you how it worked out. Okay, so for your main color and your kind of X motif, they're the same kind of tone. So in the original sweater, it's a blue and an orange, but they're the same color value, I would say. So they're both like a medium color. And then you want a light, if you want to do it similar to how it's done in the original pattern, you have a light and a dark. So the way that they did theirs was almost a white light color and then a kind of charcoal for this kind of center one. That would be to kind of get the same vibe. For me, I ended up doing a very dark, the darkest color, and then I did kind of two similar and then a mid. So I don't know if that helps when picking out colors, but sometimes it helps. If you took this and took a picture in black and white, that's kind of what you'd be seeing. And if I can think of it in time, I will take a picture and then put the black and white so you guys can kind of see the color work in that. But that's kind of what I would recommend. So far, I'm really pleased with how the floats are turning out. I don't think anything's pulling too tightly. Because it's mohair, it's not gonna like give. So you kind of want to plan when knitting your floats to be like the correct length. How I kind of ensure that I'm doing that is I knit so that I'm definitely pulling my yarns like around the back. I'm spreading out my right hand needle and I'm making sure that I am kind of always keeping the right hand needle nice and spread out. The left hand needle can be totally crammed up, it doesn't matter, but the right hand needle really needs to be spread out so that you're not getting bunching in your color work, and also making sure that it's kind of on the outside. I'm trying to think of, so when I go to do the sleeves, I might have it so I'm actually looking like I'm knitting it inside out, but I'm not. I'm just keeping it so that my floats are nice and long. And once I get to that spot, I'll show you, but for now, I'm really excited. I probably have I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more full pattern repeats. So the kind of like checkers and the X's before the body is done, and I'll start on the sleeves. My original goal was to get this done by publication day, which is in 15 days. I think that's a little ambitious. A lot of times I think I'm gonna get things done and I don't. So for now, I'd love to have the body done in 15 days and call it good, but we'll see. We'll see. So that is my Aureliano. I am really enjoying knitting this. It's gone by very quickly because the color work, you kind of just do one more row, or like finish this motif or get to the next color. And so that's really fun. What else can I say? I'm using my Luca needles, the copper Cypra needles, and they don't seem to be catching on any of the mohair or anything, so that seems to be working well. Yeah, so keeping it, so far it's still fitting, and my black pearl, I forget the name of this bag. It's like Lavino or, ooh, I'm sorry, I don't remember it right now, but the zipper, it's very cute. And it's still keeping all of the yarn. And I really think I almost had a panic attack today because I was looking at the yardage and I thought, oh my God, I'm not gonna have enough of the main color. Hopefully I do. I'm gonna be close. I'm gonna be like 20 yards close, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be fine. Let's not play yarn chicken. I also am considering, because I am a little bit short-waisted, I'm not gonna have a crop sweater. I want it to be long, but I'm gonna be conscious of when I'm getting the body done. I'm gonna try it on a few times to see if it's really landing where I want it to, because there is a little bit of shaping in the hem. So you have a little bit of a, I think, curved in the back hem. And I wanna make sure that it's sitting correctly, and because I picked the size that I picked, I want to make sure that it's not going to be too long, because it potentially could be. Typically I like about 12 inches on my sweaters under the arm, and I think it's about 13. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it, and hopefully maybe that little tiny adjustment will give me plenty of yarn. I won't have to worry at all. Hopefully. We'll see. So that is my Aureliano, a pattern by Claudia Quintanilla. One really cool thing that I will mention quickly is that the sweater Aureliano is named after a character from Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, which is a book I read a really long time ago, which I didn't remember that I had read, but I went to rent it from the library and listened to it on an audiobook, and as I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I kind of remember this, like I'm remembering it. So I am still listening to it as I'm knitting the Aureliano sweater, which is named after a character in that book. And he's the founder in the book of a magical town of Macondo. And so it's really, really a fun listen and knit, if you will, and is kind of making the experience of knitting it a little more exciting. And I love that in her Memory Lane book, she kind of shares a little memory or a little bit of her childhood or something that reminds her of the sweater in each pattern. I think is really special. And then it kind of made me think how each sweater that I'm making, whether it's this one or in the Aureliano, the little things that you remember. Like I remember, and this was a little bit of a grief knit for me. My dog had passed away, and so I had just started this when I knit it and knit a lot of feelings into it, but it is like a nice warm hug. And this one was a lot of struggles just from like doubting my ability to knit it and all kinds of different things, and having it actually turn out, you know, you have little memories in each of our knits. So I thought it was really special. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about it yet, but again, when the book comes out, we can talk a little bit more about it, and hopefully I'll have the body done. Do we think I can get it done? I don't know. The reason I'm saying I don't know is because I have yarn coming for kids' sweaters. I did order some yarn from Spun Right Round, and I'm very excited to share that with you, but it's not here yet. It's very bright. I let my kids like pick the colors, so hopefully they like it. I had no say this time. Like sometimes I'll have a little interjection of like, oh, we should have this color to balance it out, but this time it's their sweater, and I hope they like it when it's done. But for now, it's their sweater, and I'm fingers crossed that it turns out the way that they had wanted. Okay. Oh, also, the book, The 100 Years of Solitude, is being made into a mini-series on Netflix, which I thought was interesting. So if you're somebody like me who likes to read the book prior to seeing something, maybe now's the time. Listen to it. One of the two. Okay. The moment we've all been waiting for. Okay. Laine Magazine, issue 22. There are some great patterns in this book, and a really, really delicious looking recipe and some really good articles. So let's talk about it. The first pattern that caught my mind is from, I had to look up the pronunciation. I think it's Agio Knits, Caroline Skovgaard Benson, and it is the sweater Heja. Ooh, hopefully I'm saying that right. Okay, so this is a 16 stitch gauge. I feel like any of us could make this. The cool thing is that it is knit with 3 yarns held together, and so it gives this nice texture. And I'm gonna share with you, I actually really love the monochromatic picture. I think it's beautiful. I'm really, really, really loving it. But I think it's a little easier to see the other sweater just because I think you can see the detail a little bit better. But there is essentially a lot of marling happening, and then in these this block section of this sweater is a knit and purl pattern that kind of resembles, I would say, like diamonds to me. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but if you can, great. If not, hopefully you guys can see it. Okay, that was the first one. I thought it was really pretty. There's a couple of things about this pattern to consider. One is that it's a super deep yoke. So if you look on the model, the yoke is quite deep. I personally love sweaters like this. Not everyone does. And so I thought I would point it out to you. You, of course, can change it for your body. If you were like, I hate deep yokes, I love this sweater, then you would just split for sleeves sooner. And then you would have to also consider what your sleeve width was going to look like. But that is one way to kind of change it up, if you will. Also being the kind of knit purl pattern, I would guess it would probably be pretty easy to adjust it if you, again, wanted it to be a more fitted sweater and kind of change the silhouette a little bit if you would. So that was the first one. The second one that caught my eye was a cardigan by Gudrun Johnson. It's the, I think I'm saying this right, Lumu sweater. It has a really nice construction, which hopefully you can see on this picture. It has a, I believe you start with the shoulders and do a nice, I think it's like a saddle shoulder. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a saddle shoulder. So you have like this nice shoulder on the sweater, and then you knit from it. You can lengthen it, and you could also change a few different things. I really think it's just such a stunning sweater. I also really love, there are pockets. I feel like there's not enough sweaters with pockets out there, but this one has pockets and I'm super excited for it. It also has a nice detail down the back of, it looks like a little row of pearls, which gives it a nice kind of finish. And I just really like it. It has 2x2 ribbing. It would be a great addition to anybody's wardrobe, and I think that you could wear it for many years. It could be an heirloom type of knit. It's so special. And the gauge on that is 22 stitches by 34 rows. So it looks like it's a DK weight, or you can, or they held a fingering with a mohair on that one. So I thought that was really nice. And then there's actually 3 very cool shawls in this magazine. There's another really cool sweater. It is called the, oh man, I did not look this one up, Graphite. It's also a saddle shoulder. I think this would look really cool in a monochromatic palette, or a less, like, instead of the black, I would actually do like a white or a silver, like a little less high contrast. I would do a lower contrast. I think if I were to knit this one, I would do black with a gray or black with a blue. I think it would be really cool. And this one is a better picture of the shoulder. I really think it's fun. It's a very like casual looking sweater to me. Also, real quickly, the Graphite is by, oh man, I'm gonna have to look it up. Mikey Van Gagen. Normally I look up the names prior to, but I did not this time, so I'm really sorry. I probably totally messed that up. And then the other shawl that I thought was just fun and different was these braided, cabled kind of shawlette. It's by Yuki Ondera, and it's called Braids, and it has this really pretty braided edging. And I thought that was really fun. But I actually like, all of the shawls are really cool in this one. The sweaters are all really cool. But I think of the 2 sweaters, I would definitely knit the cardigan. I have a Noro yarn that it might be cool in. It's a Madeira, and it is a DK weight. It has kind of some, it's not a uniform yarn. It has some big pieces and smaller pieces, but I think it would be really pretty in that cardigan. So I'm really excited for these knits. I really think that the last one I'll show is the cover sweater, and is by Megumi Shingawa, and it's the Aika sweater. And it is just a gorgeous lace, and you know I would have to knit this in black. I'm obsessed. It is so pretty. I think it would be super engaging to knit. I think you would just be going like one more row. I want to see how this turns out. I really like how light and airy the sweater looks, but it still has some substance for the neckband, and the cuffs have like a little substance and a little kind of, it offsets the rest of the sweater. She also has a nice like twisted or spiral ribbing, so it has like a little bit of interest even on the ribbing. So there's just so many good patterns in this issue of Laine Magazine. And then I was drooling. I have to share this with you because this alone, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this. They always have a recipe, and this one was a almond caramel cake. Like, come on. It looks so good. So You've got to get this issue of Laine. I think it's going to be amazing to knit out of. There's so many things, something for everyone. There's a beautiful colorwork sweater, and I of course want to go through every single pattern and talk at lengths with you, but I think I will end it there. So make sure you go pick that up at your local yarn store or from Laine. I think it's lainepublishing.com. I'll link it below. Okay, now things that I am listening to. I've been listening to a lot of Ruth Ware books. I just finished the book One Perfect Couple. This has like Love Island vibes. It's very much a mystery and very light reading or listening to. Certainly not heavy by any means, but it is an interesting listen. And then I just started listening to, like yesterday or the day before, a book called The Woman in Cabin 10, also by Ruth Ware. And I found out that it's going to be adapted and presented on Netflix. So I don't know why I keep hiding these ones on Netflix, but there you go. But I really, really have been enjoying it. It's about this woman who is pretty sure she has witnessed a murder of some kind, and no one believes her because the person is not necessarily missing. So it's very interesting. It's definitely kept my attention throughout it. And I don't know about you, but I just found this out, so I'm going to share it with you because I thought it was so interesting. If you read the sentence, and I'm going to put a sentence here for you to read. Okay. Some people hear their own voice in their head when they're reading that sentence. Like it sounds like you're reading it out loud, but it's just in your head, which happens to me. But the further part that I find for myself is that not only do I hear it in my head when I'm reading something, but I also have like a very vivid like movie going in my head of like what's going on, especially if I'm reading a book. And so it's been really interesting because I've been listening to these audiobooks a lot lately, and it takes me a minute to think, did I watch this? Am I listening to it? Because I can visually picture a lot of the story of what's going on. So I'm really curious if you're like the second part where you have a little video playing, if you're listening to or reading something, or if you're just like reading it and taking it in that way, if you hear your own voice when you're reading a sentence, or if you're like, you're crazy. I don't do either of those things. I just read the words. I'm curious. So comment below. I'm just thought it was kind of a fun thing that I came across, I'm sure on an Instagram reel that someone had posted, but I thought it was so fun that I would kind of tell you guys here. And then some things that are going on in the podcast space. This actual physical space. I am going to be decorating, changing some colors around, maybe getting a sofa, switching it up a little bit. It's going to be slowly happening as time goes by. I'm in the planning stages right now. I have some really fun color that's going to be on the walls behind us, which part of me has panic painting the white, but it's going to be fine. And I'm really excited for the color I chose. So there's that, but yeah, so that's all that's kind of going on. My youngest is starting school next week and I'm very excited for him. My oldest, I was like very torn when he went to school for the first time, but my youngest, he's so wanting to make friends and really wanting that I really want it for him. And so while I'll miss hanging out with him all day, I'm also so excited for him to like experience that. Okay, so this was only a week since the last podcast, and I typically make them every 2 weeks, but as the fall is coming along and there's more exciting issues of magazines to share and books coming out, I might be doing these a little bit more often. If we are not yet knitting besties, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. It tells YouTube that other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until 2 weeks from now, or next week, make some yarn magic. Bye!